Okay, we have 6 people. We'll go ahead and wait a little bit for some more people to join. Wow, that changed really quickly. We have 37 people now. All right, let's see. $45, yay. Mm. All right. We'll wait just a few more seconds before we get started, see if there's any last minute people coming in. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and get started. As you can see in the chat, we have a very special birthday today. Jen right here, it's her birthday. So you can all send those happy birthday wishes. Right before the panel, she didn't even tell us. We had no idea. I had to find out through the chat. But thank you so much, Jen, for joining us on your birthday. I'm really glad that you're here today, and for the rest of our panelists, I'm so excited to hear from everyone. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So I'll go ahead and start with my name. My name is Rocio Fierro Perez. I am the El Paso Field Manager for Texas Rising, and I'll be the facilitator today. And so before we get started, if you're new to Texas Rising, I just wanted to say welcome. And I'm so excited to see so many young people with us here today. Welcome to the movement of young people that care about equality and about intersectional social justice. And so we're really excited to hear from our panelists. We have some amazing people with so much experience that are going to help us understand what it really means to run a campaign. And so that's what this session will be on today, the ins and outs of a campaign from some amazing experts that we have here today. So we're going to go ahead and get started. We're going to start with introductions from each of our panelists. Then we're going to go ahead and move forward with some questions that we have prepared for them. That'll be about 20 minutes. And then we're going to be taking some questions from the audience. So if you all have any questions that you want to ask, please feel free to put it in the chat, and we will definitely get to you. So we'll also please feel free to interact with our panelists throughout the session and add whatever you want to say on the chat. So we're going to go ahead and get started with the first question. So I thought it was very important to start off with where you all began. So we want to know about what your advocacy journey was like, and why did you decide to work on running campaigns? If any of you all would like to start. Well, actually, I'm so sorry. We need to do the introductions. I'm just too excited. So go ahead and take 1 minute to introduce yourselves. Whoever would like to start, go ahead.
I can go first. Hi, everybody. It's good to be here again. My name is Osmara Santana. I am the Texas Rising Deputy Director. Really happy to be here. Pronouns are she, her, ella.
Hey y'all, I'll go next. My name is Jennifer Longoria. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I am originally from the Rio Grande Valley, but I've been living in San Antonio for many, many years. I'm so excited to be here. Texas Rising and TFN always does an amazing job bringing new people in. So thanks for being here. I'm going to pass it to Delilah.
Thanks, Jen. Hey, everyone. I'm Delilah Agotahili, pronouns she, her, hers. Joining y'all from Houston. I'm a native of Houston. Also a big fan of all the work that TFN and Texas Rising does. Joined some of y'all last summer at the Capitol. So yeah, really excited to be here and join you with two of my faves, Jen and Otis. So we'll hear from Otis next.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Otis Epizarro. I am the Chief of Staff for State Representative John Rosenthal, and then I also double up as his political director as well. My pronouns are he, him, and his. And I am also a native Houstonian from way of London, England. Parents of Nigerian descent, hence the long last name. And so I'm really excited to be here with y'all. TFN is near and dear to my heart. So is Texas Rising because of how some of us got our starts, and we'll obviously talk about it soon. And then I really want to wish Jen a happy birthday. I'm glad that she's spending her birthday morning with us. What an honor and a pleasure. And like Delilah said, these are two of my favorite people to work with and be on the line with. So we're about to hopefully give you a lot of good stuff. And if we don't, well, we're sorry.
Thank you, Otis. And I'm sure you will definitely give us a bunch of amazing information. So now we'll go ahead and get started with the first question about your journey. So what was that like for each of you, and why did you decide to run a campaign? Whoever would like to take it first.
Okay, I'll go. Well, I think for me, when I'm always telling my personal story to folks, it always revolves around the fact that I started at a young age with my dad. I've been like a news junkie since like I was 10 years old, and I'd go to school and tell folks about like what's going on in the world, and Bill Clinton's the president, or you're dealing with Nelson Mandela and apartheid, or you're dealing with whomever, and they're looking at you really funny and like, what are you talking about? So thank God I knew a little bit about sports, right? So we could talk about something else. So, watching the news with my dad starting at an early age, and then really when Barack Obama became president, right? Here's a man with a funny name like mine, big ears, African descent, his dad's Kenyan, and it really spurred me to get really involved civically. And ever since then, I've been hooked, right? Like one of the things I always talk about is how I'm a political junkie. And for me, it's imperative that we are being the voice for the disenfranchised, marginalized, and voiceless. My parents being immigrants, myself being an immigrant, immigration is a big issue to me. Injustice is a really big issue for me. My parents taught my brother and my sister that no matter where you are, what you got, you think of others before yourself. And being civically engaged and being politically engaged has spurred that for me. And in school, I actually went to school to be a journalist because I wanted to travel the world and get the perspective of others firsthand, and not just through the lens of the media that we have here in America. Delilah will tell you, she's of Nigerian descent. What they say about Nigeria, it's not true, right? Like there's a story that is always being filtered through. So I want to do that. But the more I got in journalism, the more I became more active in politics and speaking out about certain things that were happening. And so once that took off, graduated from UH, and I interned at the Harris County Democratic Party. Please support your local county parties. There's a bunch of other things that we will get into, I'm sure, but support your local county parties. They are super important of how local races are determined in your area. But that's how I definitely got started. I interned at the Harris County Democratic Party under Chairwoman Lily Schechter, and now ever since I have done all these other things. So that's how I got started for me, and I wouldn't trade it in the world because it's been fulfilling. It's been a great experience, and you get to meet a lot of cool and interesting people. Oh, I'm going to pass it to the birthday woman, excuse me.
On days like today, I'll take girl. That's fine. Good deal. Thanks for passing that over. I think, how did I get my start? Where did my journey start? I grew up in the Valley, and my family was very, because my mom's a teacher, she was very good about voting. My whole family, my aunts, my uncles, I knew they all voted, but I always thought it was funny that they never discussed politics at all, even at the table or anything. We just didn't. I think so. When I moved out and moved to San Antonio, I started voting, and then I guess just because I'm a little bit more outward facing than they are, I definitely was like, well, what's the next thing? What else do you do? Like, this is it. We just this is great. We get to go press the button, get the sticker, like, but now what do we do? And so it took me a while to kind of find what the next step was. I had kids and raised them, and I always was a good voter, but still my family was not talking about politics. We weren't really talking about our views. It was a very open family. I knew that because we had very openly LGBTQ members of our family that we were all very supportive of. But it wasn't until my kids were a little bit grown and I had some extra time to volunteer. And that's it. I saw somebody said they needed some help, and I came to help at a volunteer event. One of the main things that happened for me was in 2007, Barack Obama announced that he was going to be running for president, and I was watching on TV. I think I was doing the dishes or something, and he said, I can't do this alone. I need your help if we're gonna run for president. So what I need you to do is go online and go to mybarackobama.com or whatever and find a group in your city. And then he said, if there's no group, start a group. Well, I was like, sure, I can do that. I can join a group online, no problem. So I go, and it's San Antonio, and to me, that's the big city. From being from the Valley, so like, of course, there's going to be a group. So I look, and there's no group, and I'm like, well, that's dumb. I mean, he had only said it like 2 minutes ago, but I was like, there should be a group. So I press the button, and I say, like, I'll start the group, but somebody else will run it, like, once we get there. But I have a feeling that because y'all are all here today, you know that when you press the button, nobody else runs the group. You run the group. So I just kept showing up. I kept coming back and doing what I could. Over the years, it became a little bit more that I was able to do. And I started talking to my family about it. And little by little, they were, first they would call me by themselves and be like, I'm really support what you're doing. Or my aunt would pull me aside at Thanksgiving. But after a while, after everyone knew what I was doing, I realized, like, y'all all agree on political stuff. I don't know why you don't talk about it. But for me, it really did start with volunteering. It started with somebody asking me to come and start a group. It started with somebody asking me and telling me what the next step was. So that to me is always near and dear to my heart. Anytime I hear somebody make an ask, I'm like, yep, let's go. If somebody calls me and I know they're asking for something, as long as they make that ask, I will try everything I can to help out. So that's where I started, just kind of showing up and not stopping. I will pass it to Osmara.
Hi, everybody. For me, I keep my family at the forefront of the advocacy and the work that I do every single day. I grew up undocumented in the Rio Grande Valley, and seeing my parents struggle to put food on the table and to even just be represented, that always sparked fire in me to make sure that other families like mine would have the proper representation we needed and that we had rights that we deserved. Thankfully, I grew up in a really great family with amazing parents that always pushed me to get a higher education, to never give up. And even though I was undocumented and I didn't know how I was going to pay for school, I knew that I had to do it. So went to school, Got to college, paid out of pocket the whole way. DACA passed, or President Obama gave us DACA, and I was able to get a job so I could pay for school. The first time that I ever got really involved was with United We Dream in 2015-16. They had their Congress in Houston. And the first time that I ever did something and saw people power was when we marched down to the Harris County Sheriff's Office and we protested that they stopped collaborating with ICE. And ever since then, I was just hooked. I couldn't stop. I ended up interning with Congressman Ruben Hinojosa from Texas 15 in his district office and in his DC office. And that opened up a lot of doors for me. And ever since then, I was involved with Hillary Clinton's campaign. I worked on Beto Senate campaign. And that helped me as a DACA person really have the power to feel represented and do as much as I can, because we might not be able to register people to vote. We might not be able to vote ourselves, but that doesn't mean that we cannot have an influence in the shape of the outcomes of an election. We can knock on doors, we can make phone calls, we can train people to do things, we can educate people about the process. There's so many things to do. I always take so much pride in election season. It's always a bittersweet time. I know that I can't cast a ballot myself, but always getting 5-10 people to go out and vote, to give them the information that they need it makes me feel like I voted. And it makes me feel like my voice is represented in that way. So I'm here today to, just continue to influence young people, especially undocumented young people, and letting them know that we can have, a lot of effect on our state and our country. I'll pass over to Delilah.
Thanks. So I got involved in high school, interning on a local congressional race. I was a high school debater. Not sure if any of you were involved in debate, particularly policy debate, right? Where we were debating things like increasing access to clean water through the Water for the Poor Act, or whether or not people can, be detained without probable cause. And so, through a debate, right, we naturally debate all these political scenarios, but there was a congressional office right across the street from my high school that a number of us on the debate team all interned at. And through that internship, I really learned even more how much politics is intertwined with our communities and our lives, and how literally everything that affects our life is impacted by a public official. And I enjoyed that so much that I took a year off before going to college and organized on a city council campaign and a mayoral campaign in Houston before going to school. But I've been involved since then. So I decided to run campaigns, though, because I've come to get frustrated watching those who are in power on campaigns, or those who do have decision-making power on campaigns. It's really frustrating to see, honestly, a bunch of straight white men sit around a table and talk about how our communities are regarded and written off, or how they're going to, engage our communities or not engage our communities. Does it make sense to go after Nigerians in Houston when the largest concentration of Nigerians outside of Nigeria is in Houston? Probably so. But maybe they don't, realize that. Also frustrated, right, when those people never look like me. So I've gone after certain positions just to try and change the political, makeup of who's in power, and hopefully change the impact of the campaigns that we're actually running. We all work in progressive politics because we all probably care about similar things, but I think that the way a lot of campaigns are run and who's running those campaigns don't always reflect the values of what we're fighting for. And so to date, didn't mention this in my introduction, but I've worked on campaigns in Georgia, Florida, Iowa, Illinois, Maryland, and Texas. I was Beto's state director for his presidential year, and in 2018 was the field director for Stacey Abrams in Georgia. And currently, I work as the national field director for Win Justice. So it's important for me, right, to represent young Black women in these positions. And to make sure that we're diversifying those in power.
I couldn't agree more with everything that you all said. I think it's amazing at how unique each of your experiences are, and I think it's important for us to recognize that there's not one way to be involved or to to get to a point where you run a campaign. You can do it wherever you came from, or even if you didn't grow up in a place that was political. You can join at any moment. And so thank you so much for that. And now I think it's really important to get into what it takes to run a campaign. What are the ins and outs of a campaign, and how do we get started? Do you want to go ahead and start, Jen?
Sure. The ins and outs of running a campaign and how you get started doing it. I would think just you get started doing it by showing up for candidates that you support. And if you don't know a candidate that you support, then you look them up. I'm like, it's the future, y'all. You have the internet. Look up the candidates that are running, see who, speaks to you most, and then literally call them or show up. I mean, real talk, call them first and let them know you're coming. But you got to show up, and you got to keep showing up. There will be candidates that do not have enough money to pay anyone. There will be candidates that everyone says, like, this not, like, nobody even knows this person. But if you believe in that person, that's somebody that you can help. I've worked with so many candidates that looked like me but weren't represented like within our elected officials, who may not have won their races, but boy, did we change the conversation during that race, and kind of pushed the more viable or more well-funded campaigns to talk about issues that were important to us. So I'd say, first off, show up and get to know people. Just start introducing yourself. Start letting people know what you're interested in doing, because then people like me will think like, oh, you should be talking to so and so. So that's my initial, is just show up, and then I'm going to pass to Delilah.
Thanks, Jen. I would echo that, honestly. It's really important to show up to an office, email the info attend a virtual event, make your intentions known to anyone who's involved with the candidate or the campaign, and somehow you'll get pulled in. Be shameless too, right? About like how you're reaching out and showing up. So whether you're at like every event or you're emailing them like once a week, campaigns move really fast. People are working on lots of different things. There's like, don't wait around when you can continue to ping them and make sure make sure they know that you want to be involved. I also think it's important too to reach out to anyone in your network who could help you get plugged in. It's a really small world, right, of political operatives, smaller here in Texas than lots of other places. But if you reach out to, I'm sure, like any of us on the panel or anyone else involved with TFN, Texas Rising, between all of our networks, we would probably know someone or the candidate themselves or an organization you want to get involved in, and can help you get, a position you want or the experience you want. So just I would encourage you to be shameless about networking. I'm going to pass it to Osmara.
Yeah, I think I agree with both Jen and Delilah. The first thing you have to do is show up, make yourself available, know that you want to do the thing, be passionate about the person that you want to support, make sure that the values that you have are also represented in that person. You don't need prior experience to get involved. All you need is just wanting to make a difference, wanting to do something, believing in the person or issue that you're supporting. Everything else you can learn. Everything else you can be trained on. I started literally not knowing how to be on a phone bank or do anything. And, I was trained by amazing people, and I think all you need to do is just make sure that you are passionate about the work, passionate about the issue, and just show up.
Yeah, and I think like they're spot on in what they're saying, and I come from a sports background, playing in high school and stuff, and one thing that our coaches would always tell us: the best ability is availability. If you want to run a campaign and you want to get involved, on the what we like to call the senior staff level and things like that, you do have to be available and show up. The other thing too that I think that I think everyone here would agree with is also do the work. One of the things that I try to tell, our staff who try to get more into this and other folks, and I see some people in the chat that worked in the Capitol building as well too. I tell them the same thing: do the work. Someone will recognize it. Trust me, they will, because Delilah mentioned this. Campaigns are fast moving. The turnover is super quick. We're constantly on a go. So the folks who are available and doing the work always get recognized because we need folks who are going to do the work. And so I would just add that piece to it of making sure that you're doing the work and you're there to support. That's not to say don't work yourself into a wall. Don't do it to the point of exhaustion. We are all a team. We are here to help each other. So you don't need to do all of that, but know that there does need to be some work needs to be done, especially being progressive and being a Democrat in the state of Texas, right? Like it's even more of an uphill battle. So just being available, doing the work, and genuinely trying to have a positive attitude about it too, I think is super important because this is a grind. It's a daily grind. And I think I'm dating myself as a millennial because I think there's a bunch of Zoomers on the call as well too. But The West Wing is a favorite show of mine. And, I tell people all the time, we don't live in the world of The West Wing or House of Cards or Scandal. It's a grind. There's no script. Trust me. I would know. My boss was in something last summer that we had no plans of ever talking about. Or if you're looking at the news now, you're seeing the news cycle. There's something new every day that you don't account for. So you're trying to have a positive attitude, being upbeat about it will definitely take you a long way and trying to be as involved in a campaign as possible.
I would say just to wrap all of that up, if you are volunteering on a campaign and you want to eventually run a campaign someday, talk to all the different departments, take an interest and see what it is they do, and keep an eye out for other people that are showing up, staying long-term and holding to their word, because those are the people you're going to want to call when you finally get an opportunity and somebody says, hey, can you find somebody for me to do this? Can you find somebody for me to do that? You want to be able to recommend and bring people up with you who will start a campaign and finish a campaign. Or if they can't finish a campaign, there's a reason, or you know what I mean? You want to be able to have people to look to call and say, hey, I think I should know this, but can you talk it through with me? Don't be afraid to call other people and say, hey, I got this opportunity. How do I move forward?
Alrighty, so now we can take some questions from the audience. I actually see a question that just came up from Vicente. How can we hold campaigns accountable? And how can people push campaigns to go the extra mile?
Okay, y'all, I'll go fast real quick. I have seen a couple of people, especially in this room, I've seen Rick Galvan has posted videos on social media asking, calling out certain city council people. And the first thing I did was say, look at this, Rick is talking to young people, you need to address this. So I think that was a really effective way to get a council member's attention, just because they care very much about how they're portrayed in the public eye and social media, especially at a city council level. What else you got, y'all?
Yeah, Jen, and to back your play on that, it's the actions, right? It's the different ways of organizing. It's kind of funny because if you're holding a campaign accountable, and how can you do it? It's almost like a campaign, right? Like you do these things that you use these tools, whether it's via social media, it's writing a letter campaign, emails, op-eds. I'm a big fan of op-eds. I get my boss to do it all the time. I'll do it too as well. But also, like, just being at those events as well, showing up where they're at. Now, I know with COVID-19 happening, that's a little different now too, right? But hopping on that Zoom call and being at their event and asking the tough questions. Where do you stand on this position? Not letting them off the rope. And it's hard, right? Because as campaign operatives, it's no secret. We have talking points for our boss. We tell them, hey, like, pivot, right? Like, so it is a battle that you're facing. But when you keep on, it makes the campaign think about, okay, what's our position on it? Because Joe Schmo over here has been to 15 events and keeps asking us the same question. So clearly we cannot run from this, right? Like, so it's that consistent, and I tell our officers all the time, it's consistently applying pressure. Because when you do that, eventually you'll get that diamond that you're looking for. Now, it might take a while because the process can be a little drip, but when you keep applying it, eventually they'll respond and you'll hold them accountable in the way. And if they don't listen to you and they're not going to do what you want to do, go find somebody to run against them, or you run against them yourself.
I see another question here that says, I think especially in this political climate that we're in right now, what's the most effective way to deal with negativity? So smear campaigns and personal attacks.
Yeah, I'll just honestly, I'm a fan of running clean campaigns, clean, positive campaigns. I just always have. And if there's a need for negativity, don't let it come from your campaign, right? Like, let the outside groups that are endorsing you, the unions or the PACs, like, run the negative campaigns. So I've always been a fan of, like, ignoring the negativity, whether that's a smear campaign against your candidate, I've been on campaigns where the opponents also attacked our staff, have filed ethics violations against our staff and everything else. But I think that, like, you run your race and you don't deviate from that regardless of what they're doing. So, you write your campaign plan at the beginning and you carry out that campaign plan until election day, and you don't react to what the other candidates or the opponent is doing.
Okay, let's see. We have, I have campaign experience, but I'm having trouble finding a job in campaigns. How do you suggest I proceed? I have other jobs lined up, but I'd rather work in advocacy.
Yeah, I think that it's so tough, right? Because we're in these places, we're in these spaces where we do want to eventually get to where we want to be in life, and this is a conversation that's much bigger than just the political world, right? Like, eventually getting to where you want to go. Look, you apply to exhaustion. That's what I tell people all the time. Just apply for everything, and sometimes too as well. And obviously, I hope everyone has a different take on this, because this is just for me personally. But you also try to get started in a place sometimes too that is not necessarily what you wanted to do with to begin with, right? Like, you can get in as a field organizer, and you wanted it to be a finance whatever. Sometimes getting into that field, and I think Jen said this too, was that, like, trying to figure out what your niche is, right? Because sometimes what we do, we get caught up in, oh, this is a finance position, and we look at it and we're like, that's exactly what we want to do. And then when you get on that campaign, you realize this is not what they said this was going to be, right? And you're trying to find your different avenues. So my suggestion to you is that I just keep applying. Someone will call. It's hectic time. We're doing our own stuff too, and you're trying to figure out a lot of stuff right now on our campaigns. But keep applying. But also don't exclude some of the positions that you might not want, because it could possibly be the position that is made for you, and then it could lead you into that advocacy space, right? Because also as young folks, we also have to build up our resume as well too, right? And you have to take jobs that say, oh, look, I have the requisite experience, or I'm at least getting my foot in the door. That's what I tell people all the time. All you need is a little crack in the door. And once that crack is there, boom, like kick it open, knock it down, and do your thing. And hopefully that answered your question. And that's just a little bit of from like my perspective on how to go about that.
I will say I definitely back the you may not start exactly where you wanted to, or you may not start in the same place. I worked in libraries full time until about a year and a half ago, and I would either help manage campaigns on the side, or I would just do everything I could on the side. But I wasn't in a place yet where I could work, like keep up with the instability of the election cycles yet. And especially in Texas, for years, there were campaigns that couldn't pay, especially real talk, the campaigns that I wanted to back, they couldn't always pay for staffers. So I really did have to keep like a double life for years, where I was living this like super calm, boring library life. And then at 5 o'clock, I was just in campaigns. I was, phone banking, texting, doing whatever I needed to do to like get to know people and show that I could be dependable. But for real, it wasn't until about a year ago that I was like, okay, I'm at a point where I can completely stop and move over. So you just got to figure out what works best for you, whether that's summers or whatever it is.
Yeah, and quickly jumping on that, I think there's like two very important things. Like one, like Jen mentioned, you can be working full-time, part-time, something else, and maybe just volunteering with campaigns. Like right now, it's 2020, we're in a pandemic. We don't know what GOTV is going to look like. We don't know what field teams are going to look like, or what other kinds of campaign efforts are going to look like. So just making yourself available as a volunteer. Perhaps, you can, there will be a position open, and you'll be the first one that's already there and already doing the work. And then two, remember that there is advocacy in every issue, right? If you end up working in the health industry, if you end up working in education, there is advocacy there, and just look for those opportunities for you to get involved in that way.
Sorry, I'm going to add one other thing. I think this is an important question, and I think that it's hard, right? Working on, what's technically like temporary work and bouncing from campaign to campaign to always find the next thing. But what's been really helpful for me is to always reach out to anyone who was like in a leadership position or was my boss, and letting them know what I wanted to do. So you said that you have campaign experience before, but like anyone else who's managed you, or anyone who's senior leadership on that campaign, like you should reach out to them, send them your resume, let them know you're interested in working in, whatever cities or states you're interested in working in, or let them know whatever positions you're looking for, because they all probably know people hiring, but maybe they don't know that you're looking. So this goes back to being shameless about letting people know what you, are trying to do.
I do have one last question, because we're running a little short on time now, and I think it's really, really important. And that is, have you ever felt underestimated, or have people ever questioned your experience? And how did you deal with that, especially when you're trying to be that first person to represent a group that isn't represented? Otis, do you wanna say something?
The irony of me going first on this is not been lost on me. Sitting on a panel full of women, I'm sure they are going to tell you all of their experiences, right, of people questioning their decision making. Absolutely. Especially being young, Black, and having a Nigerian last name. Oh, it is fun. There are stories to be told all the time. But look, man, you persevere, you keep going on, you trust in yourself. Because the one thing I always tell people all the time, the best promotion is self-promotion. And the way that you self-promote yourself is by doing the work and making sure that Your work is going to speak volumes. You are putting in the work. You're grinding. You're going at it. And just doing that, simply doing that. And, folks are always going to question your decisions. Whether we're black, white, whatever, people are always going to question it because, one, folks are ambitious. They want to be where you're at right now, one. But two, also, like, everyone has their own way of doing stuff. Campaigns is not a one size fit all. It's a myriad of ideas that are coming together. It's different people's plans that are coming together. You have to be comfortable in yourself to know that, hey, look, sometimes the plan that you have, they're not going to choose, but also being comfortable in yourself and saying, you know what, me leading this or me being a leadership role, let's actually go with your idea. Let's do that because it sounds good. Like being inviting, making that atmosphere palatable for everybody and including everybody is going to help with folks questioning your decision making as well too. So, just being super inclusive and just keep grinding it out and do your thing. But no, people will always question your decision making. It's always going to happen.
Yeah, and I can piggyback off of that. So yeah, as a brown, queer, undocumented woman, in this space, like there are so many things that people can critique me on and the decisions that I make, right? But something that's really important to keep in mind, especially when we live in that intersectionality, is that we can turn that to be our own narrative and be like, this is why you need me in a room. This is why you need to hear my voice. This is why you need to listen to what I have to say, because there are so many misrepresented communities out there that need myself at this table. So people can critique you, but you can always turn that into a positive and make sure that you are at that table, or make your own table and bring people along with you.
I love that. Yes, we need to make our own table if there isn't one. So we are getting close to the end. We're going to be wrapping up. Is there any final words that you all would like to share with us? Anybody would like to talk on the chat box? Go ahead. We have about a minute left. Is there any final words that our panelists would like to share with us?
I would quickly like to add that, at Texas Rising, we hear this statistic all the time. Young Texans, 18 through 30, make up a third of the electorate now, which is insane. Not only should we be getting educated about the process, about going out to vote, but also make sure that you run for office, make sure that you run a campaign. Like, not only is our voice needed at the ballot box, but we also need to make sure that young people, especially young people of color, are running for office to represent the rising young constituency. So run for office, run campaigns. If you guys have any questions, you guys can reach out to me. You guys can reach out to anybody in this panel, but make sure you do the things. We need young people out there.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that, keep going, man. Keep going. Look, you watch everything that's going on. Times are bleak, but it's okay because joy is going to come in the morning. And the only way that's going to happen is if we're continually putting the work in and just continue to do that. Try to have a positive attitude. Change is coming. November is coming. Get excited, get ready, and find an elected to go work for or a candidate.
I'll go. So, 2 seconds.
Go ahead. I don't know if that'll cut us off, but
I was just going to say that, like, in work, I just think it's important to make sure that you're showing up and speaking up, and also make sure that you're intentionally building authentic relationships with those that you're working with, because those relationships are really, I think, what makes this experience. And I'm going to let the birthday girl close us out.
Do all the things, y'all. That's it. Keep showing up. Come help us. Have a good day.
Thank you all so much for joining us. I don't know if we're going to have time, but I'm going to see if we can do a group fee really quick if anybody wants to join. And that's how we'll close out today. Thank you so much for joining us, and we hope to see you at the other sessions. So go ahead and take your group selfie and go ahead and send it. You ready?
I love these group fees.
I know. I think it's great because whenever you've usually in like Zoom or anything like that, somebody takes a picture and you're not ready. But this one, like, you're the one responsible for the way that you look.
For sure.
All right. I'm not sure if...
It'll stop on its own once it's ready. I think people are still taking.
Okay.
Osmara, Rosie, it's good seeing y'all again.
You see what is...
It's been a while since we got to all sit together with Cecile. I'm never gonna forget that day when she just pulled up. I was like, "Cool, we're gonna be sitting with Cecile."
I know. I was like, I'm next to Cecile.
Yeah, like
It's surreal. I really hope that by next summer we can actually meet in person for Summer Institute.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Even advocacy days
in person. That what?
Even advocacy days like pushing it. So
yeah. Well, this is still. I can't. I don't know. Maybe I can't. I don't know if I would have been awake at 10 on a Sunday as a young person to be online. You know what I mean? Like, that's awesome.
Yeah, and then the other half's on the other panel.
Oh, okay.
There was 2 panels, running a campaign and running for office.
Oh, okay.
Today. There's more than 45. Come on, selfie.
I'm like, I don't know if I have to do anything. There's nothing showing up for me to do.
It'll pop up and then it'll ask you to download it to your computer. It'll say like it's finalized or something.
Oh, okay.
In the middle of the panel, it got so dark and stormy outside, and then now it's totally back to normal, like blazing sun. Right in the middle of the panel, I was like, it's finally raining. Done.
Let me go to the window.
Done.
Yeah, it was really dark out here too, and now I'm starting to see blue now.
Jen, how's post presidential campaign life going for you? I know we haven't talked in a while.
Yeah, it's going okay. I'm working with Texas Toll Belt with Kimberly Olson. And they've got me, like, we just kind of do like field stuff for different organizations or data stuff for different organizations. They've got me working on HIA's census effort right now. That's a lot of wrangling, a lot of wrangling. So we're doing that. We're getting ready to move into a voter engagement project for them.
Okay.
But we're always looking to see who else is around. I just finished helping part-time with TFN. But I did take 2 months off where I was just hanging out. But it kind of coincided with the pandemic, so it was like a luxury, but then, yeah, we'll see what happens. I've been just doing a lot of data stuff.
Yeah. Hanging. Just doing your part to turn Texas blue.
We'll see. Like, Harris is such a monster, and HIA is doing this thing where they're like, we're just going to do this voter engagement thing. They don't realize they're suggesting that we do this huge coordinated campaign. They're just like, I don't know, this seems neat. You know what I mean? Like, it's when you don't even know enough to know that you
there's got to be a lot more before we're like, hey, we're going to do this thing, right?
You're like, dang, y'all.
We should have data and, some numbers and who's funding this and, the important questions.
Yeah, and I think that's part of it is that they have funding. So then they're just like, let's do this hardest thing we've ever thought of. So,
yeah. And it's August already. So it's
Like that's what I really feel like that's why I'm there, is to say, like, I don't care what we do, that's fine, we'll do it, but you need to decide in 3 days.
Right.
And that's a little bit of a shock for them. But somebody needs to be in there and talk to them about calendars and goals.
Well, thank you all so much. I think we're going to go ahead and end the call already. Thank you again for joining us. And hopefully you can check out some of the other sessions.
I have a question. So, is there a way you can share our contact info?
Oh,
with
yeah.
Yeah.
Like, emails?
Yes, we should be able to, right, Osmara?
Yes, we should be able to, and I can get with Ray and Chris.
Okay. Delilah, let's put in the chat. I don't know if anyone's still there.
I can put it on the chat now.
Are people still in there?
Something
We're trying to reach the young people, y'all.
Well, look, the one thing that we can say about this generation is they'll find us. Like they go find you, because we got social media. They'll put you in Facebook, and then boom, it's off to the races. My sister does it all the time. I'm like, how did you find this? It was really easy. I went on Twitter, and then I went on their Instagram, and then their TikTok, and then like I just kept being them. I'm like, y'all are not good.
FBI, we have Gen Z and young millennials.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, you got it. I'll be calling them. I'm gonna be like, Delilah, you know this person. And if Delilah doesn't know,
let's chat all day.
That's real.
I'm gonna hop off, y'all. It was so good seeing you. Take care.
Okay, we'll go ahead and end the call with that. You all have a great day. Thank you all for joining us, whoever's still here. And enjoy the rest of the sessions. Bye-bye. Let's see.